I want to tell you about a woman I knew named Margaret. Margaret raised 4 children. 4. She carried each one of them inside her body for 9 months. She fed them from her own flesh. She stayed up through fevers and nightmares and stomach aches and thunderstorms. She packed lunches every morning for 16 years straight without missing a single day. She drove them to school and picked them up and drove them to practice and picked them up and drove them to friends' houses and picked them up. She helped with homework she didn't understand because school had changed since her time, but she sat there anyway, squinting at math problems that made no sense to her because her children needed help and she was their mother, and that's what mothers do. She worked 2 jobs for 11 years so her kids could have what the other kids had. Not luxuries, just the things that keep a child from feeling less than. New shoes when the old ones had holes, a winter coat that actually fit, lunch money so they didn't have to sit in the cafeteria pretending they weren't hungry. Margaret gave her children everything she had, every dollar, every hour, every drop of energy in her body. She poured herself into those 4 kids like water into cups, until there was nothing left of her to pour. And now Margaret is 73 years old. She lives alone in the same house she raised those children in. The bedrooms that used to be full of noise and mess and life are empty now, clean, quiet, like museum rooms that nobody visits. Her oldest son lives 2 hours away. He calls on Christmas and her birthday, sometimes Mother's Day, if he remembers. Her second child, a daughter, moved across the country for a job and sends a text every few weeks. Short ones. "Hey Mom, hope you're doing well. Love you." That's it. Her third child doesn't call at all. Something happened between them years ago. Something Margaret doesn't fully understand. A disagreement that turned into distance, that turned into silence, that turned into years. And her youngest, the one she was closest to, the one she thought would always be there, he got married and his wife doesn't like Margaret much. And slowly, carefully, quietly, he was pulled away. Not all at once, just a little at a time. Fewer visits, shorter calls, excuses that sounded reasonable at first and then stopped needing to sound reasonable because nobody was keeping track anymore. Margaret sits at her kitchen table every evening and eats dinner alone and looks at the 4 empty chairs around her and wonders what she did wrong. She must have done something wrong, because children don't treat their mother like a stranger unless she deserves it. Right. That's what she tells herself. That's the story she has written in her mind to explain the silence. I must have failed them somehow. I must not have been enough. And I want to tell Margaret, and I want to tell every mother and father who is living that same story right now. You did not fail. You were not enough. What happened to you is not a reflection of your worth as a parent. It is a reflection of a world that has taught your children to leave, to move, to chase, to prioritize career over family, to prioritize distance over closeness, to prioritize independence over belonging. Your children didn't abandon you because you were a bad parent. They abandoned you because the world told them that growing up means growing away, and they believed it. They believed that maturity means not needing you anymore. They believed that success means building a life so far from where they started that looking back feels like looking at a different country. And they are wrong. They are deeply, painfully wrong. But they don't know it yet. They won't know it until they are sitting in their own empty kitchen, at their own quiet table, wondering why their own children don't call. In our tradition, leaving your parents was unthinkable, not because it was forbidden, because it made no sense. Why would you leave the people who know you best? Why would you move away from the people who carried you when you couldn't walk, and fed you when you couldn't feed yourself, and stayed awake through the night so you could sleep safely? Why would you put distance between yourself and the only people on this earth who loved you before you had done anything to earn it? In our tradition, the family didn't scatter, the family grew. Children became adults, and they built their homes near their parents, not out of obligation, out of wisdom, because they understood that the elders were the roots of the tree, and if you cut yourself off from the roots, you stop growing. You might not notice it right away. You might feel fine for years, but eventually the leaves start to dry, the branches start to crack, and one day you look at your life and realize that something essential is missing. And you can't name it because you left it so long ago you forgot what it was called. It was called home, not the building, the people. I want to talk about what happens inside a parent when their child stops showing up. Because it is not just sadness. It is something much deeper than sadness. It is an unraveling. You spent 20 years or more building your identity around being someone's mother, someone's father. Every decision you made was filtered through that identity. You didn't just eat dinner. You made dinner for your family. You didn't just go to work. You went to work to provide for your children. You didn't just exist. You existed for them. And when they leave and the calls stop coming and the visits stop happening, the identity doesn't just change. It collapses. You are still a mother. You are still a father, but the daily evidence of it is gone. There are no more lunches to pack, no more homework to help with, no more rides to give, no more arguments about curfew or chores or screen time. All the things that used to drive you crazy, all the noise and the mess and the endless demands on your time and energy, you would give anything to have them back. Because those demands were proof that you mattered. Those demands were the sound of being needed. And the silence that replaced them is the sound of being forgotten. I have seen this do things to people that no illness could do. I have seen strong women become shadows of themselves because the children they sacrificed everything for couldn't be bothered to pick up the phone. I have seen proud men cry behind closed doors because their son drove right through town on the way to somewhere else and didn't stop. Not because the son was cruel, because the son was busy, because the son had a meeting, because the son had somewhere to be. And the father was not that somewhere. The father was just a town to drive through, an exit on the highway that used to be home and is now just a place between where you are and where you're going. That is what it feels like to be an aging parent whose children have moved on. You are an exit they no longer take. I want to talk about holidays, because holidays are the cruelest days on the calendar for a parent whose children don't come home. The whole world is telling you that this is the time for family. Every commercial on television shows a big table full of smiling faces. Every song on the radio is about coming home. Every store window has some image of generations gathered together, laughing, loving, being everything that a family is supposed to be. And you are sitting in your house alone. Maybe you cooked a meal anyway, out of habit, out of hope. Maybe you set an extra place at the table just in case someone shows up, and nobody shows up. And you eat alone with the television playing those commercials about families who look nothing like yours. And you tell yourself it's fine. They're busy. They have their own families now. Their in-laws needed them this year. They'll come next time. And next time comes and they don't come, and the time after that they don't come, and eventually you stop setting the extra place. You stop cooking the big meal. You stop expecting. And that moment, the moment you stop expecting your own children to show up, that is the moment a part of you dies. Not dramatically, not with noise, quietly, like a candle going out in an empty room that nobody is watching. I knew a woman named Rose who cooked Thanksgiving dinner every year for 22 years after her children left home. Every single year. Turkey, mashed potatoes, cornbread, pie, the whole spread. For the first few years they came. Then they started rotating. 1 year at her house, 1 year at the in-laws. Then the rotation became every third year. Then every few years. Then just promises that never turned into plane tickets. And still Rose cooked. Every November she went to the store and bought a turkey big enough for a family and brought it home and cooked it in a kitchen that smelled like everything a home should smell like. And she ate alone. She wrapped the leftovers in foil and put them in the refrigerator and ate turkey sandwiches for a week, not because she was hungry for turkey, because she was hungry for the ritual, for the memory of what that table used to feel like when it was full. She was cooking for ghosts, for the memory of children who used to fight over the drumstick, for the echo of laughter that used to fill that kitchen. She was keeping the ritual alive because letting it die meant admitting that the family she built was gone. And she wasn't ready to admit that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I want to talk about why this happens, because it's easy to blame the children. It's easy to say they are selfish and ungrateful and cold. And some of them are. I won't pretend otherwise. Some children leave and don't look back because something inside them is broken in a way that has nothing to do with their parents. But most of them aren't cruel. Most of them love their parents deeply. They just got caught in the current of a world that moves too fast to look backward. The modern world is designed to pull you forward, always forward. The next job, the next city, the next opportunity, the next promotion, the next chapter. Forward, forward, forward. And nobody ever tells you to stop and look behind you. Nobody ever tells you that the people who made your forward motion possible are standing at the place you left, getting smaller and smaller in your rearview mirror. The world celebrates the person who moves to a new city for a better job. It doesn't ask what they left behind. It doesn't count the cost to the mother who now eats alone. It doesn't factor in the father who sits in his workshop holding a hammer with nothing to build. The world counts your salary and your title and your square footage. It doesn't count the empty chairs at the tables of the people who loved you first. There is also something else that pulls children away that nobody talks about, and that is guilt. The children feel guilty. They know they should call more. They know they should visit more. They know that every time they say, "I'll come next month," and don't, a small debt is being added to a ledger they can't see. And that guilt, instead of pulling them closer, pushes them away. Because every phone call is a reminder of the guilt. Every visit is a confrontation with the distance they've created. And it's easier, so much easier, to just not think about it. To stay busy, to fill the schedule so full that there's no room for the quiet moment where the guilt catches up to you. That's what the busyness is really about for a lot of these children. They're not too busy to call. They're too guilty to call. And the longer they wait, the bigger the guilt gets, and the harder the call becomes, and the easier it is to put it off one more day, one more week, one more month, until the distance between them and their parents is so wide that crossing it feels impossible. And so they don't cross it. And the parent sits in the empty kitchen and wonders what they did wrong. And the child sits in their busy life and tries not to think about it. And both of them are suffering. Both of them are lonely. Both of them wish things were different. And neither one of them picks up the phone. I want to say something to the children now, and I want you to really hear me because I am not going to say this gently. Your mother is waiting for you. Right now. As you listen to this, she is sitting somewhere in a house that used to be full of your voice, and she is waiting. She won't tell you that. She will never tell you that, because she doesn't want to be a burden. There's that word again, burden. the most destructive word in the English language when it sits in the mouth of an aging parent. She would rather die lonely than make you feel guilty. She would rather eat alone every night for the rest of her life than hear the inconvenience in your voice when she calls at the wrong time. She has been trained by a lifetime of putting you first to continue putting you first even now. Even when putting you first means erasing herself. Even when putting you first means pretending she's fine when she is drowning. You don't see it because she won't let you see it. But I see it. I see it every day in the eyes of mothers and fathers all across this country who are dying of loneliness while their children are out living the lives that those same parents made possible. You owe them a phone call. I know that sounds old-fashioned. I know you have a busy life. I know your schedule is full and your to-do list is long. And by the time you get the kids to bed and clean the kitchen and answer the last email, the last thing you want to do is pick up the phone and have the same conversation you always have. How are you? I'm fine. How's the weather? It's cold. Okay, well, I should go. Okay, sweetheart, talk soon. I know that conversation feels pointless, but it's not pointless to them. That 15-minute call is the difference between a day that had a voice in it and a day that didn't. That 15 minutes might be the only human conversation they have all week, the only time someone says their name out loud, the only proof they have that they still exist in someone's thoughts. You think the call doesn't matter because nothing important is said, but everything important is being said. The call itself is the message. The message is, I remember you. I haven't forgotten. You are still my mother. You are still my father. You still matter to me. That is what they hear when the phone rings. Not your words, your presence. And your absence when it doesn't ring is the loudest silence they have ever known. Now I want to speak to the parents, to the mothers and fathers who are living this pain right now. I want you to know something that is hard to hear but important to understand. Your children's distance is not always about you. Sometimes it is about them. Sometimes they are struggling in ways they don't know how to show you. Sometimes they are carrying shame about their own lives, about a marriage that isn't working, about money they don't have, about a career that didn't turn out the way they promised you it would. Sometimes your children don't call because they don't want you to hear the failure in their voice. They don't want the person who believed in them most to know that they are falling short. And so they stay away. Not out of cruelty, out of pride. The same pride you taught them. The same never let them see you struggle mentality that you modeled for them their entire lives. They learned from watching you. And now they are doing to you exactly what you did to the world. Hiding, pretending, putting on a brave face and saying everything is fine when nothing is fine. You raised them to be strong, and their strength is keeping them from being vulnerable with you. There is a painful irony in that. I also want to tell you something that might give you some peace. Your children carry you with them even when they don't show it. The way your daughter holds her own baby is the way you held her. The recipe your son makes on Sunday nights is the one he watched you make 100 times. The way your grandchild laughs sounds exactly like you. You are not gone from their lives. You are woven into everything they do. They just don't see the threads because they are too close to the fabric. But the threads are there. In every decision they make that was shaped by your teaching. In every value they hold that was planted by your example. In every moment of tenderness they show their own children that they learned by watching you show it to them. You are in there, deep, permanent, unremovable. Even when the phone doesn't ring, even when the chair is empty. You are the most present person in their lives, and they don't even know it. Let me tell you about a man named William. William was a father of 3. He worked in construction his whole life, built his children a home with his own hands, literally, every board, every nail, every wall. He built the rooms they grew up in. He built the porch where they took their first steps. He built the kitchen where they ate 10,000 meals together. And one by one, his children grew up and left that house and moved to cities and started lives of their own. And William was proud. He didn't complain. He told everyone his kids were doing great. His daughter was a lawyer. His oldest son was in business. His youngest was in school for engineering. William talked about them to anyone who would listen. They were his legacy, his proof that his life meant something. But they didn't call much. They visited less. And William, who had built an entire house with his hands, couldn't figure out how to build a bridge across the distance that was growing between them. I went to visit William one afternoon and found him sitting in his workshop. He wasn't building anything. He was just sitting there, holding a hammer, staring at the wall. And I sat down next to him, and I didn't say anything, because sometimes the most respectful thing you can do for a man who is hurting is just be there without asking him to explain it. After a long time, he said, "I built them everything, and they left anyway." And I didn't have an answer for that, because there is no answer for that. There is no wisdom deep enough to explain why a child walks away from a parent who gave them everything. There is no proverb or teaching or ancient story that makes that pain make sense. All I could do was sit with him and let the silence be full of both our presence. And when I left that evening, William walked me to the door and said something I will never forget. He said, "Tell your children you love them today, because today they're listening. Tomorrow you don't know." William passed 8 months later. His children all came home for the funeral, all 3 of them. They stood in the house their father built and they cried. They cried in the rooms he made for them. They cried on the porch where they took their first steps. They cried in the kitchen where they ate 10,000 meals together. And his daughter told me through tears, I was going to visit next month. I had it planned. Next month. And I wanted to hold her. And I wanted to shake her. Both at the same time. Because next month is the lie that children tell themselves to make the guilt manageable. Next month, next holiday, next summer, next year, next, until there is no next. Until the phone number you kept meaning to call goes to a voicemail that will never be checked again. Until the house you kept meaning to visit becomes a house you have to clean out and sell. Until the parent you kept meaning to see becomes a headstone you visit when you feel guilty enough. Do not wait for the funeral to show up. Do not wait for the emergency to call. Do not wait for the guilt to become unbearable before you do the simple thing that your mother has been praying for every single night. Pick up the phone. Drive the 2 hours. Take the exit you've been passing. Walk through the door. Sit at the table. Eat the food she insists on making even though you told her not to. Listen to the same stories she has told you 50 times. Laugh at the same jokes. Look at the same photo albums. Let her fuss over you. Let her feed you too much. Let her hold your face in her hands and look at you the way only a mother can, like you were the most important thing the world has ever produced. Because to her, you are. You always were, and you always will be. Even if you treat her like a stranger, even if you don't call, even if you drive right through her town without stopping, she is still your mother, and she is still waiting, and one day she won't be. And that day will come faster than you think, and everything you meant to say and meant to do and meant to give will sit inside you like a stone for the rest of your life. Don't carry that stone. Put it down now, while she's still here, while the phone still rings on the other end, while the door still opens, while the table still has a place set for you. Go home. Not next month. Now.